Welcome back to the video series Sea Level Rise Flooding. I'm your host and guide, Paul Enns. This fourth episode covers phased adaptations. First, we explore the strategy of retreat as an adaptation option. Second, we'll review physical strategies such as temporary flood protection, living with water, and permanent flood protection. Third, we'll explore the phased adaptation for near-term, mid-term, and long-term. Why not just move to higher ground? Let's listen to Matt Kennelly describe why retreat is not a pragmatic strategy.
There's been a look at whether or not we could adapt by moving the treatment plant, for example. The community investment made into our Bud Inlet treatment plant is about $500 million. That moving the plant has been estimated to cost about $1.5 billion. So it's very cost effective in order to look to adapt our Bud Inlet treatment plant versus relocate it elsewhere.
The Port Peninsula is primarily publicly owned by different agencies, as shown by this graphic. The Port of Olympia owns most of the land, followed by the City of Olympia, then Lot, and finally the area around Capitol Lake, which is managed by the State of Washington's Department of Enterprise Services. These agencies have a history of working together, and their goals are focused on long-term benefits to the public. There are many areas around the world that have to deal with many types of owners, both public and private. They have the reports about future sea level rise flooding, but can't figure out a way to move from plan to adaptation. There are three physical strategies for addressing sea level rise flooding. One is temporary flood protection, sandbags, street gate catch basin covers. A second strategy is living with water, as shown by these examples of living shorelines, elevated structures, buildings. The third and final physical strategy is permanent flood protection, such as walls, steps, berms, elevated streets. When occasional episodes of high tides, intense storms, and river-lake overflow all come together, the result is called nuisance floods. The City of Olympia is ready to implement, on short notice and for a limited time, operational strategies like street closures and detours, all to ensure our safety during these nuisance floods. In order to make informed decisions, we must gather information. Studies of tide levels and sea level rise in the local area of Bud Inlet and East Bay must be put in place. Would give a record of what had been the measurements and of current trends. Then we can predict the future. Groundwater levels and land subsidence measurements must be taken over time as well. Design standards for new structures, roadways, and land use must be upgraded and updated for future generations. The City of Olympia has been working on a number of areas that had been prone to past flooding. One of these is the intersection of Columbia and Avenue A. The city has installed tide gates here, and at 20 other sites, backflow gates work like this. Normally, stormwater flows down the catch basins through pipes to outfalls on either the Bud Inlet or Capitol Lake. At high tides or flooding on Capitol Lake, the water backs up. Tide gates or backflow gates are devices that prevent the water from either Bud Inlet, East Bay, or Capitol Lake flooding the streets. An environmental impact study has been done about Capitol Lake. There are 3 recommended options. Leave the dam at 5th Avenue, remove the dam and turn the area into an estuary that had been there originally, or a step in between with dam and estuary. Depending which of the 3 options is implemented, then 3 different adaptation scenarios could be implemented. These adaptations could be raised berms, rebuild the flood wall, and landscaping. Percival Landing is identified by a boardwalk, piers, and marinas. When sea level gets too high, the boardwalk will have to be raised, or the land next to the boardwalk will have to be raised. Raising the current boardwalk, ramps, and piers is a very expensive solution. At high sea level rise flooding, the docks could float above the poles, or the ramps bend or break.
The ultraviolet disinfection building has been confirmed to be also above minimum flood elevations during the design. That's a new facility that was upgraded. We do ultraviolet disinfection here at the Bud Inlet Treatment Plant, as opposed to chlorine disinfection, which you'd have to dechlorinate the water before you would discharge it. With ultraviolet, you can use a specific wavelength of light to disinfect the water, so there's no residual chemicals in the water afterwards. So that was an important upgrade that we did, and we confirmed that the building itself in that project was aligned with our flood planning for the future.
The Port of Olympia is not threatened by short-term flooding. We will talk with port personnel about mid- and long-term adaptations on another episode when we review the 3 critical areas: Bud Inlet Treatment Plant, City of Olympia and Capitol Lake, and finally, the Port of Olympia. Till then, stay safe and stay dry.